Hello everyone, and welcome to our final plenary session for this year's International Safety at Sea webinar series. I'm your host, Laura Key. The International Safety at Sea event is an annual conference organized by the Maritime and Port Authority of Singapore as part of its commitment to promote safety at sea. This year, we are heartened to have over 600 participants from more than 60 countries joining us, with key decision makers from governments around the world, as well as representatives from across different sectors of the maritime industry. Thank you for joining us, and welcome back if you had participated in our earlier sessions. We will be announcing the winners for the MPA International Safety at Sea Awards towards the end of this session, so stay tuned for that. To start our plenary session, I would like to invite Mr. Koichi Fujiwara, Chairman of the International Association of Classification Societies, to deliver the keynote presentation. Mr. Fujiwara, please.
Good afternoon, and thank you, Ms. Kwali Foon, and all at the MPA Singapore Maritime Port Authority for inviting me to give this keynote address as IAX Council Chair. I have been asked to consider the lessons learned by IAX and its members in relation to the impact of COVID-19 has had on our business, particularly in the areas such as remote inspection, statutory certificates, surveys, inspections, and audits. I will address all of these points shortly, but before we get to the lessons learned and the experiences we have gained, I'd like to point out that this is still an ongoing situation and that the most critical issue of all, that of crew changes, still requires urgent action. Whilst not operating ship and therefore not employing seafarers for that particular purpose, IAX nevertheless expresses its solidarity with our colleagues across the maritime sector as they work tirelessly to resolve this most difficult of issues. IAX quickly recognized that the COVID-19 pandemic would have a significant and lasting impact on the maritime sector. Companies, governments, and regulatory bodies were forced to take rapid and extraordinary measures to ensure that the maritime industry was able to continue functioning in a smooth and efficient manner as possible. From the start, IAX has been fully committed to supporting industry and flag states in that objective by identifying and assessing measures that can be implemented in a coordinated fashion to help facilitate business continuity. One early example was the unanimous decision by IAX members on the use of each other's exclusive surveyors in exceptional and dry justified cases. As recognized organizations, IAX members also welcome the positive and proactive action undertaken by IMO and the issuance of IMO circular letters calling for understanding and close cooperation by member states in order to overcome challenges related to the implementation and enforcement of the relevant IMO instruments. To support the IMO in this endeavor, IAX developed a set of guiding principles to assist flag states in determining the approach to ships' statutory and classification certificates, which have reached their already extended expiry dates. IMO incorporated the IAX documents into their advice, which in turn was also used by various port state control to provide guidance regarding surveys and renewal of certificates. Indeed, given that the supporting safety net of port state control was temporarily suspended to some degree by some PSC regimes, IAX was acutely aware that the safety and environmental protection of shipping and compliance needed to be assured to the maximum extent possible. The prevailing principle adopted by IX throughout the exceptional period has been to make sure that ships remain subject to the mandatory statutory and classification regime of surveys and certification as far as possible. In addition to our work with flag states and IMO, IX has also been in constant liaison with our industry colleagues to ensure that IX not only help to facilitate the smooth functioning of industry, but that IX member surveyors operated in a way that was sensitive to the health needs and concerns of the ships they visited. In practical terms, an important element in IX being able to deliver on these objectives has been the use of remote surveys. It is important to say from the outset that IX members were conducting remote surveys before the COVID-19 pandemic. And IX's long-standing recommendation on the use of remote inspection technique was updated more than 2 years ago. Nevertheless, COVID-19 has widened and deepened the use of remote surveys to a very considerable degree. And this experience will be used by IX to analyze and review the use of remote surveys in terms of their effectiveness and the potential lessons learned. Decisions to use remote surveys are taken in close consultation with the flag administrations, and their use is often decided on a case-by-case basis. To date, remote surveys have been utilized only as a partial replacement of physical surveys. Although the pandemic has temporarily shifted the focus to maximizing their use as a tool to allow the continuation of shipping operation in an extraordinary global situation. In this situation, necessity has decreed that remote surveys be more flexible in order to overcome particular challenges, but this flexibility will be time limited. IX also recognizes that many maritime administrations and industry associations have taken a close interest in the evolution of remote surveys, and gathering the views of all stakeholders will form an essential part of IX assessment on how to successfully embed this new approach into the survey and certification regime. In conclusion, IX's role in the pandemic has been to keep international shipping functioning smoothly while maintaining the necessity of high standards of safety and environmental protection. In this process, IX has tried their best to adhere to the existing regulatory and classification regime to the maximum extent possible through the deployment of the latest technologies. This approach has allowed the response that has been flexible, rapid, and effective. In my view, this new normal is likely to continue in the existing regulatory and quality regimes. Also, it will lead to the development of new and innovative approaches and widespread deployment of new technologies in that industry. I stand ready to work with the IMO flag states and all other stakeholders in this endeavor. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Fujiwara, for setting the stage for our panel discussion. As we all know, the COVID-19 pandemic has brought about unprecedented challenges for ship management. The new normal for the industry may be an accelerated switch to automation and smart technologies. Are we ready to embrace this change. The way we interact with each other will surely change. Virtual meetings replacing physical visits. Will that impact safety and the standards required by regulators? For today's discussion on ship management, lessons learned for safety and standards in the new normal, we have Captain Atul Vatsa, Founder and Director of AV Global Marine Private Limited, as our moderator. He is joined by our panelist, Mr. David Gunn, Director of Business Development at ABS. Captain Anil Singh, Chief Operating Officer of Eastern Pacific Shipping. And Mr. Goh Chung Han, Director of Shipping at the Maritime and Port Authority of Singapore. Before I hand the time over, ladies and gentlemen, do note that you may pose questions to our panelists by clicking the Q&A button at the bottom of your screen. The stage is yours, Captain Atul.
Good day from Singapore. Few people have joined us from Europe, so good morning to you. Japan, good evening, and good afternoon to everybody in Singapore. 2020, what a year it has been. 30 days to go, and I think the countdown has begun for 2021. For sure, strange things have happened in this year, and we never imagined that this important seminar would be hosted in such a way. But of course, this is the fashion that is becoming now. This year's focus has been on maritime safety, new norms, new paradigms. And the earlier sessions on mental health, wellness, reflection on incidences, casualty, and the way forward has given us a lot of insights. Crew change, of course, is in everybody's top agenda right now. It was discussed in today's morning. But another important aspect which is being planned for this final session, which is the best for the last, is ship management, lessons learned for safety standards in the new normal. To help me and all of you watching there, I have with me three eminent speakers or panelists who represent three major stakeholders: flag, class, ship owner. And they would like to give us a good insight on the various challenges, lessons learned during 2020. We have CH from MPA, Director of Shipping. Anil is the CEO of the Eastern Pacific Singapore. And David is ABS Director for Business Development. However, before I move on to the panelists, I would like to go through some of the key points of Mr. Fujiwara's keynote address. Of course, he did mention issue related to crew change is more critical as of now. They are fully committed to support flag industry in various of the new adventures they are trying to do. They have developed a set of guidelines for flag state, but one important aspect they've kept in mind is safety and environmental protection of shipping and compliance to the maximum extent possible. So that means there's no shortcuts. These guidance are being used by PSC. Remote surveys, we have all seen, has moved leaps and bounds. In fact, according to his statement, that these recommendations were over 2 years old, and some companies were already doing remote surveys, but now it's becoming the norm. And of course, with this remote service, IACS would analyze and review the effectiveness and potential lessons learned. So this brings me to the panelists, and my first thoughts is, the COVID pandemic has thrown us many challenges, but it has also presented us with opportunities to emerge stronger. So David, view Mr. Fujiwara's keynote address. What has ABS done to support IACS in development, and what are the new challenges risen from COVID-19? What has ABS done to support the customers, and has been working closely with flags to minimize operational interruption? and conduct service safely and effectively. David?
Thank you, Captain Atul. Right. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's a great pleasure to be here, and I want to thank MPA for having me here too. Now, ABS is fully committed to support industry and working closely with flag administration to minimize disruptions and conduct surveys safely and effectively. And ABS has also issued guidance to support our clients in responding to the current and forthcoming challenges posed by the coronavirus pandemic. And to date, ABS has been proactive in working with industry and flag states where operational decisions regarding, for example, measures to maintain validity of classification and statutory certificates on a case-by-case basis when surveyors are not able to board vessel due to restriction of travel or even boarding the vessel. And ABS, together with IX members, as mentioned by during the keynote speech by Fujiwara-san, and recognize that inconsistency with that IX member have to be an inconsistency approach between the various class society is required, and IX has therefore established a COVID-19 task force to identify and assess measures that can be implemented in a coordinated fashion to help facilitate business continuity. And ABS, together with IX members, have taken unanimous stand to the use of each other's exclusive surveyors, where it would be impractical for one society surveyors to attend a vessel where another IX member's society could be utilized. And for example, in a recent case where ABS, where we have an exclusive surveyor in Brunei, and we attended on board a Class NK vessel for intermediate surveys, because Brunei authorities is currently not allowing foreigners to travel to their country. Their border is closed and the work permit is currently frozen due to COVID-19. And ABS and IX also developed a set of guidance principles to assist flag states, keeping in mind the safety and environmental protection of shipping and compliance to the maximum extent as possible. And ABS in itself, through the dedicated account manager for each owners, is also working closely with them, okay, to assist them to complete the due surveys, and as far as possible, and where is possible, where the surveyors are not able to board the vessel, so or there is restriction for the surveyors to go attend on board, and then the application by force majeure to temporarily extend the certificate as far as possible with the authorization from the flag state. And this will then be a vessel when she's sailed to a port where the surveyors can go on board, or where remote surveys can be carried out with the live streaming as far as possible. And for example, when the vessel is in Singapore port, surveyors are able to board the vessel and attend physical inspection. And to assist our clients as well for COVID-19 response and mitigation measures on board, ABS has also issued guidance notes on response measures to COVID-19 for the marine and offshore industry, and also the guide for mitigation of infectious disease transmission on board marine and offshore assets. Thank you.
Thanks, David. Maybe now to CH. How has MPA taken up this challenge, and how it has supported the owners and seafarers during this COVID-19? How does MPA plan to work with customers to fight this pandemic and shift gear towards the new normal?
Thank you, Captain Atul. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to all the participants, depending on which part of the world you are in. I'll try to address the question posed by Captain Atul. I'll try to segmentize it into 3 quick segments. One, with regards to ship owners, we see that with this pandemic, one of the challenges that ship owners face are compliance with regulatory requirements. That is to get surveys and audit done within their expiry dates. So we work with the ship owners, we work with the classification societies, and we were guided by two main principles. Number one, we have to maneuver within the rules and regulations. For example, renewal and docking survey cannot be postponed more than 3 months beyond its due date, or an annual survey has the window of plus minus 3 months. The other guiding principle is that whatever we do, we shall try not to dilute or lower the standards of safety and pollution prevention. So with that, we work with the owners and we work with the classification society, and we come up with a procedure whereby, where required, we authorize the classification society ROs acting on our behalf to carry out the surveys or the audits to the maximum extent possible. Sometimes we have to resort to remote surveys also. And then we issue short-term certificates for the outstanding items to a certain date, so that the service is considered completed, but there is a short-term certificate and the outstanding items has a certain expiry due date. So that's one way we go about it. New normal, like what Mr. Fujiwara mentioned just now, we see that remote surveys will be more and more prevalent. There are pros and cons. There are limitations to what remote surveys can achieve at this point in time. But in time to come, with advancement in technology, we foresee that the scope and the extent of remote survey can be further enhanced and expanded. Number two, with seafarers, we also realize with the pandemic, many seafarers face difficulty in terms of renewing their certificate of competencies or ancillary certificates. Why? We have situations where service providers, course providers suspend their operation due to travel restriction. And seafarers themselves find it difficult to travel to Singapore to renew their COCs and all that. So what we did is we issue a shipping circular, we inform the industry, and we extend the seafarer certificates for 6 months beyond their expiry date. But of course, we do give a call to the seafarers. We get in touch with them just to check the relevancy, the experience, and what the seafarer has been doing in the last couple of years is still relevant. However, we also realized that life must go on. So what we did is we have started to carry out oral examination via video conferencing, remote. And today we have carried out, I think, about almost 200 such examination via video conference. And new normal going ahead, I foresee that this is quite a useful supplement. Of course, at this point in time, it is a necessity. But going forward, usage of technology such as video conferencing for oral examination will be a very good supplement to what we do day in, day out. And of course, lastly, for both owner and also seafarer, something cannot escape from talking about is crew change and safety. Crew, we realize for the sake of the need for crew change, for the sake of crew's welfare and mental health. So Singapore as a Singapore port, we have been facilitating crew change. I think a lot has been said about that one. We are doing good numbers day in, day out, about 75% of what we used to do before COVID. For Singapore flagships, of course, we are following up with the operators and managers of Singapore flagships with regards to the crew on board those ships and repatriation plan, etc. New normal going forward, MPA has been working with the unions and the industry to look at upstream at the crew supplying countries and see how we can assist to make the preparation, the crew change protocol, such as crew quarantine facilities and utilization of technology, how to make crew change safe. Yeah.
Thank
you.
CH. It's good to see MPA as giving something back to the seafarers, at least making them to get their renewals done easy. Now I come to Anil. You heard both class and flag. And as an owner, firstly, how has been this experience related to what has been said by Fujiwara-san, David, CH? Secondly, what new challenges risen from COVID-19 and how it has affected your business?
Thank you, Atul. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. I have heard Fujiwara-san speak, David, CH Go speak. Very, very interesting remarks, very interesting resolutions. You can divide them as a ship owner into two. Firstly, two single words which speak as think ahead. Always have a plan B in position on every single issue you think of. The biggest challenge this year during COVID times has been crew changes. We've been very fortunate of not having, although it's been very difficult, of not having the necessity to divert ships unnecessarily for a crew change, because by thinking ahead, by planning ahead, I would say in 90% of the cases, we have successfully conducted crew changes. We, as a ship-owning organization, have exceeded some 3,500 crew changes in the last 7 months. And to succeed on this, we have a full group of full-time people working 24/7 to assist and plan efficiently. Class ABS, and we have ships with 5 IX classes. All the 5 IX classes that we've been working with have been very cooperative. They work with one another. So we're never left with a point where a ship certification is due or a surveyor has not been able to attend a ship. It has been quite challenging to get ships into the shipyard. Shipyards have been available, but getting an owner's representative, that is a superintendent, to handle the dry docking has been a challenge. We've overcome that by placing superintendents around the world, number one, to attend ships as they're coming into different ports, and at our preferred dry dock locations. Singapore flag for one, and we have 3 flags. Singapore is one of our main flags. Have been very cooperative, very conducive to the new requirements, and it has been a smooth sail as far as issues which have been cropping up are conducted, explained, and executed well. There have been no issues with the Singapore flag, or for that matter with the other flag. But Singapore flag, because we are in Singapore and we are face to face with the society here. COVID-19, as far as crew is concerned, has placed immense challenges on the human element. We decided 10 months ago to embark on a Life at Sea program for our 5,000 crew. The Life at Sea program has run amongst our entire fleet of over 100 vessels. And being a ship-owning company, we've executed pretty well, and it's been accepted across the board. Down to things on community living, care packages, free internet, unlimited, basically, quality of food, a culinary chef working with each chef on board the vessel, teaching them new culinary habits, hygiene, new recipes, people taking interest on board and keeping them occupied on their work by giving them, besides internet, lounge facilities. So all this has helped us, has helped the system, has helped our seafarers and their families to be rest assured that they're being taken care of. Fortunately, to date, we have not had any ships being stopped, any crew refusing to work, any class refusing to attend a ship, or for that matter, flag disapproving a particular requirement. Recently, with Singapore flag, we went into alternative fuels and did a trial with biofuels. We were just discussing CH, which was a success. Such new initiatives cannot work independently of class and flag. It is a tri-party agreement. It is a tri-party system which has to blend together and work together on the same page. I hope I've answered your question, Atul.
Yeah, thanks, Anil. I think seeing what they have done as an owner, giving some importance to crew in this pandemic may have motivated the crew also on board. Let's move on. We have a poll which we can put it up on the screen for people to vote. Can we have the poll on? Okay. While they put the poll on, we can move ahead. There's another important thing which has, this COVID pandemic has done to us. It has put pressure on an organization's ability to operate safely, keeping in mind safety and environmental protection and compliance to the maximum extent possible. So I would like Anil probably to tell us what is the new risk to safety and how do you see yourself positioned to tackle this risk?
Very interesting. Thank you very much. As I said earlier, the COVID issue and everything related around it has put immense pressure on the system, has put immense pressure on people. In order that we work safely, we have to keep the manpower on board happy and contented that their needs are being well looked after, that there is a care and share program, that the human element takes priority over income in many, many cases. Income as in charter hire. If a ship has to be diverted to relieve deserving crew who have finished their contracts, it is done. If the weather is bad, we show these staff on board that there are other ways possible. If a boat cannot come out, there's a helicopter. The issue is, what more can you do? Where the commitment has to come from the top. It has to come from the senior management and ownership of the organization, then which trickles down. And once you have everybody on board, there will be total acceptance of the problems. The commitment has to come not only from one company. The commitment has to come from the fraternity. It has to be a combined issues. The taking priority is the human element, giving the ship more, giving the staff on board the vessel more opportunity to work efficiently and taking into account the work and rest hours, not overtaxing the staff on board, not allowing imports, not allowing unnecessary people to come on board because there is a fear of the disease spreading on board and affecting everybody's livelihood. What can and on what have we as a ship owner done And what do other ship owners do? That's a very wild question. It's a very subjective question. When you see ships with crews staying on board and with no idea of relief going on for 18, 20 months, that's disastrous. Due respect should be paid to life at sea. Due respect should be paid to the fact that the ship staff not only cannot go home, they cannot go ashore. So basically, as a ship owner, to work safely, be nice to your crew, be accommodating with the crew, listen to their grievances, if at all they have any, and ensure that you walk your talk. You walk your talk each time, and it's not a subjective issue. Thank you.
Thanks, Anil. CH, you want to add something to that? How your organization have supported the owners in this new challenge?
Yeah. I think you mentioned about, Captain Atul, you mentioned about the pressure on an organization and also in these current circumstances. In terms of safety, one thing is I mentioned about owners keeping ships within the surveys and audit cycles alive. But there's the other aspect, because I'm talking from the point of MPA and Port of Singapore, the other aspect is port state control. Port state control has always been an important check and balance to ensure that ships are operated in compliance with rules and regulations. Now, with this pandemic, of course, we face challenges in conducting port state control inspection on board ships due to requirements for safe distancing measures, etc. So we have resorted to remote surveys for now. New normal, I doubt remote port state control inspections will be the prevalent way of carrying out port state control inspections in the future. But for now, out of necessity is certainly one option. But I move on to another item which Captain Anil mentioned just now about crew being on board for long periods of time. And that is also something that in MPA, I'm very proud of the crew change team. It's not easy. We have to facilitate crew change in these difficult and challenging times while maintaining a fine balance between trying to facilitate crew change and to do it in a very safe manner. The crew change team put in a lot of work, long hours, but they understand it is an important thing that we are doing. There are a lot of crew that has been on board for many, many months, like Captain Anil mentioned. We need to get them home to their family safely. There are also many, many crews that have been at home for a long time. They need to make a living. We need to get them to ship safely. So these are the challenges that we face during this period and the effort and initiatives put in.
Okay, thanks, CH. David?
Yeah, during this challenging time for ABS, when we come to remote surveys, the existing physical surveyors, the remote surveyors have to be trained. So what we do is we train the surveyors to carry out remote surveys for every particular surveys, right? And then once they are trained, they are authorized to do remote surveys. There is a team of remote surveyors who can carry out remote surveys when is required, so that the surveys can be out safely and effectively for the safety of the vessel and the crew. So, and also we work closely with the flag administration, as I mentioned earlier, right? And where that is not possible, where we have a problem where the ship cannot, like especially when CH mentioned about dry docking, where remote survey cannot be carried out. So we have to get authorization from the flag state to issue a short term by force majeure to postpone the surveys until the vessel get a dock space in the shipyard. So this is part of the support that we provide to the owners, and also for digitalization, we issue e-certificates and also submission of drawings for modification, repairs. So this is the owners can just submit in by electronically. There's no need for physical paper, which is to be sent by mail or by post. And also regarding the other issue challenges is the live streaming, where remote surveys are carried out. This will also depends on the connectivity to the vessel. So if there's no connectivity, then the challenge is that remote survey is not be able to be carried out, because we have this issue of the remote surveyor is not able to communicate with the crew on board as well. And we have also challenges of postage, like mentioned by CH, that once the remote survey is carried out, so you also do not want the vessel as when she goes to the next port where postage go on board and find all the defects as well physically when earlier where the remote survey is carried out. So these are the challenges, and to support the owners also, we do have regular engagement with the fleet manager, with the superintendent. We do have regular team meeting, and also cascade up to senior management, where the senior management for ABS from corporate side, they will call down to Captain Anil as well by to communicate and to exchange information of all the issues that how we can support the owner in the new challenges. Okay.
Thanks, David. I think we have the results of the poll. Can we have the poll results up on the screen, please? Okay. So the question was, which areas do you most wish to see some fundamental changes in the next few years of safe shipping? It's a close fight between more commitment from shipping companies and review of human factor framework. I think in the earlier session, the shipping companies' more commitment was required, but it's good to see that human factor framework is something which we all want to see a good change in, because that is where this needs safety culture improvement overall. Okay, I come to the next one. It's something to do with work from home, you know. Maybe it is meant for CH, then followed by Anil and David to give us some insight into this aspect. Is work from home applicable to shipping long term when comparing to the likes of Google, Microsoft, and other industries where work from home was a norm before COVID-19?
Thanks, Captain Atul. Very good question. I think whether we like it or not, work from home is already here now. It won't go away. In fact, I think there's a sense of expectations, especially from the younger generation. I think it is more difficult to justify to the younger generation why they cannot work from home rather than, having to work from the office. But having said that, I think work from home is applicable to certain job functions, like you mentioned, tech companies, etc. In shipping, while it does fulfill the requirements for certain functions, there are other functions in shipping which I think, due to efficiency of function, physical presence is required. I mean, building relationship, between charterers and ship owners and ship managers. Emergency response. I mean, it will be very difficult. It's difficult for me to imagine if a ship gets grounded and then the ship manager or the ship owners convene an emergency response team working from home. It is almost, it's difficult for me to fathom that. And then, of course, there's the physical part of shipping, stewardess and also surveys in shipyard, close-up inspection of tankers, bulk carriers, thickness gauging. So while work from home is applicable to a certain extent, physical presence is still required in shipping in other aspects. Thanks.
Anil?
Very interesting. Thank you, CH. Work from home is a great concept, But in shipping terms, I don't think it is here to stay for long. You cannot compare it to Google and the likes. And the reason I say so is because we are in a very dynamic industry. The ships are moving, there are lives on board, and as CH very rightly pointed out, if there is an emergency, you can't be convening an emergency handling with everybody sitting in different homes. You have to convene at a particular point with all the parameters in place, with all the communication in place. Take for instance my organization. Over the last 9 months, we had divided ourselves in 3 teams, A, B, and C, where C was 50% of the fleet of the office staff, and they actually worked from home. And between A and B, we alternated, with the senior management staying at the head of both the teams. It was difficult. It's not impossible, but it was difficult. It was unimaginable, but now we have come to an understanding of how it should be and how we want it to be. And that's expectations. If you take staff, office staff, they find it very difficult to work from home because they do not have all the means at their disposal like they have in an office to work. Although a company, and take us as an example, have invested immense amounts of money into systems which you can access remotely, other companies may not be able to do so. So how do you maintain a balance between expectations, what you want to do, what flag wants, what class wants to do, and that can only be done by ensuring you think ahead, you plan efficiently, so that there are less bumps along the road. Thank you.
Thanks, Anil. David, you want to add something?
Oh yeah, during this pandemic, I think work from home, like Captain Anil say, in our industry is we are not the likes of Google or Microsoft, right? I do agree with him because as from the class point of view, and for example in Singapore, when ships call into port, we have our surveyors attending on board physically. They do go on board to do all the surveys that's required within the port limit, right? And also to keep once they complete the survey, they will go home, right? For the surveyors as well, to keep their families safe as well as they go on board. So there's also the precaution taken for them with the support from MPA, MOM. Also, we do roll out the COVID testing for all the surveyors. Like every 2 weeks, they have to go for the COVID test. And also, we issue them the PPE. Right, the company will give them the PPE, like masks, hand sanitizers, gloves, or all the protection required. So these are the daily routine. But for those the office staff, like admin staff, they do work from home. But when there is a requirement for them to go down to the office, like collection of photocopy or have to collect documents, so that they do have to get permission from the HR to go back to the office, right? Same for myself when I need to go back. So these are the challenges that we face. And for I think the new realities from working from home is that, and any individual, because at home you have a lot of distraction, right? You have some family members, they have facing temporary unemployment, the children, the homeschooling of children, the lack of physical contact with other family members, friends and colleagues. You can't get to mingle with them or discuss anything with them physically. So all this takes time to get used to it. And these are the new lifestyle and to these changes. and also that there is a worry of the fear of contracting the virus, right? When you go out, and that's the worry for people who are vulnerable, and especially it's challenging for all of us. So I think basically I think for ABS we are ensuring all the safety precautions are taken before we open up the office. Like our office was officially closed for the last 7 months, and we just opened like 4 weeks ago. But that's we divide into Team A and Team B. But we do have our surveyors, 3 surveyors in the office all the time to attend to all the daily requirement as and when required.
Thanks, David. We'll now bring up one audience question is there. Coco has got a question for us. And I think I can address this question if you could put it up. Okay. During the pandemic, in respect of remote service, IX members interpret and approach inconsistently. Meanwhile, flag state require differently. In this context, so how you make balancing between your class interpretation and statutory requirement? Maybe CH?
Yeah, Captain Fatul, definitely. Okay, for Singapore flag, we have 8 recognized organizations. All 8 of them are IX classification societies. So when the Singapore flagships requires to undergo remote surveys, it is actually carried out by our recognized organization. That means one of the classification societies. And what we would do is normally we will see and inquire, work with the class to see what is their requirements, what is their procedures, and what is their protocol to carry out the remote surveys. And then we will, as a flag, we will agree and approve, or we will inquire, make some questions, or maybe add in a little bit here and there. But as far as possible, we try to have a consistent requirements across the board for the same particular type of surveys or audits. Yeah. If I may, from a post-state control point of view, slightly deviate from the question, then that has got nothing to do with classification society or RO. It's a post-state control inspection. We have started to carry out remote post-state control inspections, but what we do, our procedures and all that, we have submitted to Tokyo MOU, hoping to start a discussion. Tokyo MOU have accepted it, and the discussion will start soon among the members in the Tokyo MOU so that we can come to an agreement of a standard way of doing a remote post-state control inspection. Thank you.
Thanks, CH. Can we have the next audience question, please? Is the detention imposed by authority to the vessels with crew whose employment contract expired a positive or negative impact during the pandemic? I see this, this has happened a couple of times in some countries. So, David, do you want to give us some insight on this?
I think in this case, I've come across where vessels were detained because of the crew, right? But normally we will refer back to the ship manager, who's because we will have to go back to the flag state as well, and try to work with the flag state to see if the flag state will agree for temporary extension, because there is no, I think it's for certain country, there's no way the crew can just walk off and then new crew just come in at the same time. So, and I think most of this detention is mainly handled by the flag state, because class will normally try to support, but this is more on the crew side.
Okay. Anil, you get impacted by this for sure, because as an owner.
I think the question is interesting from Sitan, but why should this happen? Why are crew being left on board well in excess of their agreed contract periods? It's unfair to the crew. It's unfair to seafarers worldwide. There is one country who stops and detains a vessel if the crew has been on board for more than 11 months. What has that ship owner done during the 11 months to think of changing crew, or have they just taken the back seat and said, well, sorry, nothing can be done? There's always something that can be done. There's always that option of diverting a ship, of discussing with charterers, of ensuring that the human element is looked after. You don't want suicides on board. You don't want people to go crazy on board. The detention is a force majeure. Why do we have to get detained? This is a measure being taken out of frustration by a certain country to ensure that the human element is addressed. It's very, very unfair for a ship owner to have crew on board well in excess of their contracted periods of employment and still sailing and have no voice. And that's my take on this issue.
Thanks, Anil. CH, you want to add something in short?
Yeah. The positive impact is that I think it puts a little bit of pressure, or a lot of pressure, depending on how you look at it, on ship owners to carry out their obligations, like what Captain Anil has just mentioned. Initially, I've known of a couple of ports that detain vessels with these kind of circumstances, with crew having overdue contract. But that port doesn't allow crew change. So it becomes an impossible situation to get out of. So that turns negative in that sense. If you detain a ship and then you don't allow crew change, so how do they rectify that? But having said that, I think things have changed. Many of the ports that I know of that come down heavily on ships that have crew with overdue contracts, but they allow crew change. So then that's a positive way. You yes. Get the crew home. Yeah.
Thanks, CH.
Yeah.
During our registration, there were 2 questions. Can we have the results of those questions up on the screen, please? Okay. So I think the first one, 92% yes for they've adapted to remote service and inspection, and it's going to stay for some time, as already CH has mentioned and David has mentioned. When it comes to working from home, becomes an acceptable norm in these times. What are the implications on this for ship management activities? So basically, it was broadly 69% falls under these 4 categories, and communication and connectivity is at the top with 24%. Looking at the survey, there are a few key findings which I could see. There's risk of information silos. People said connectivity is an issue. Some people felt social interaction is important. Difficult decisions, discussions, and problem solving can take place during physical contacts. Office discussion, corridor talks, eye-to-eye exchange of emotions. Physical meetings hold more value than telecommuting. Some even have mentioned the disconnect between shore management team members. So one suggestion was even that companies need to organize team building measures to close this gap and drop in efficiency of weak link members in the team because of lack of oversight or guidance from managers. I don't, maybe somebody wants to give just a few things on what you feel with the survey, especially for question 2. Anil or CH?
I think we discussed it at length. Working from home sounds good, but is it practical in the long term? I'm of the opinion that it is not practical. I'm of the opinion that no matter what you do, no matter what technology and systems you adopt, sitting at home and working remotely or at times doing a Zoom meeting or a Teams meeting, you still lack visibility of the actual situation. In every case, you need to think. And then working from home, there's a lot of distraction. You can't lock yourself up in a room for the whole day. Not everybody may have that opportunity of having a big house or an apartment where he can just lock himself or isolate himself in a place. So it is essential that while working from home sounds good, it is not practical in the long run. Thank you.
Thanks, Anil. We have time for one more audience question. Can we have that up, please? Okay, we have a unique challenge posed by COVID. That is hardly anybody going on board. That means from flag, RO, managers, owners. Over a period of time, with stress posed on seafarers, safety is taking a backseat, and so is the condition of the ship in general. What is the solution in your eyes, MPA, ABS, towards this? Firstly, I don't think safety is taking a backseat with what I've heard. And I'm sure that IX has already given some guidelines into ensuring environmental and safety protection is kept at the highest. Yeah. But maybe, David, you can give a few lines on what you think.
Yeah, thanks, Captain Atul. I think you're right that safety is not taking a back seat because when we do remote survey, when the vessel cannot, the surveyors cannot physically attend the vessel, there will always be remote surveys, right? And the remote surveys is not like a telephone call or what. There's going to be live streaming, there's going to be reports, there's going to be photos, there's going to be live videos. Otherwise, it's not a no-go. So priority is for the vessel. If just say the vessel, you cannot, nobody can go on board, there is no communication, I mean the connectivity, and then of course the vessel will have to sail down to the next convenient port, right, where there's connectivity, or with the consultation with the flag state, where if the remote survey can be carried out. Otherwise, there is a way for the owners to carry out remote surveys for the authorization for the vessel to issue a short-term certificate. When she goes to a port, convenient port, the physical surveyors will go on board to inspect the vessel. And of course, on top of this, like CH was mentioning, you have also port-state control going on board to inspect the vessel. So there is a few group of organization going to check the vessel as well. And when the vessel reach a port as well for loading or discharging.
Thanks, David. So, okay, I think in a closing remark, what I can say is that the pandemic is teaching us a very hard lesson about resilience, adaptation, forcing individuals and organizations of all sizes to reckon with deep, enduring crisis that basically threatens our lives and our own livelihoods. There is no true or tried, tested method of dealing with global pandemics. Some organization has adapted to this change, and some are still behind. The big picture is that the maritime industry is rapidly transforming in terms of unpredictable market, regulation, and technology. Overall, marine safety has improved, but new challenges has risen from COVID-19. And I think one of the main one is caution fatigue. It's like drained like a battery. Crew welfare is one of them. And so I would leave for everybody with a few questions to ponder upon and discuss in your own organization. Have you been able to help your organization during this crisis? Have you been able to adapt to this new paradigm and even thrive? I thank all the panelists, CH, Anil, David, for their insight into today's topic. And I hand over back to Laura. Laura, all yours.
Thank you, Captain Atul, Mr. Gunn, Captain Anil, and Mr. Goh for your sharing and an interesting discussion. Last but not least, as promised, we will be announcing the winners of the MPA International Safety at Sea Awards. While we are unable to present the certificates in person this year, the organizing committee has prepared this video to pay tribute to our winners. Enjoy. The MPA International Safety at Sea Award recognizes and celebrates outstanding contributions at both the corporate and individual levels. Despite the global pandemic, a record number of nominations were received this year across all categories, and these entries were reviewed by the National Maritime Safety at Sea Council. Before we announce the winners this year, let us hear from Ms. Kwa Lei Hun, Chief Executive of the Maritime and Port Authority of Singapore, and Mr. Ishaq Ismail, Chairman of the National Maritime Safety at Sea Council.
Dear friends and partners of Maritime Singapore, a safety-first culture on board ships and in the workplace is vital to saving lives and preventing accidents and injuries. So we at MPA want to recognize individuals as well as companies who have made outstanding contributions to safety. This year, with COVID-19, safety is even more important. I was told that we have a record number of nominations. We also have a bumper crop of winners for the MPA International Safety at Sea Awards. So congratulations to all the winners. Let's work together as one community to continue to uphold the highest standard for the maritime industry.
Dear seafarers and all who are in the maritime industry, it was very encouraging to see so many quality nominations this year. So much so that we decided to introduce letters of commendation. I was heartened to learn about a ship which deviated from its route in order to rescue 25 crew from another ship on fire, and others where search and rescue operations were made under challenging conditions at night or in heavy seas. These are indeed heroic efforts worthy of recognition. There are also other notable efforts to enhance safety at sea and the well-being of crew on board through the use of technology. On behalf of the National Maritime Safety at Sea Council, congratulations to all winners.
Our first category is for outstanding search and rescue efforts. And these are our awardees for successful search and rescue operations carried out by Singapore-flagged vessels, Singapore companies, or vessels in Singapore's search and rescue region last year. AET Tankers Private Limited, China Ore Shipping Private Limited, Donnelly Tanker Management Limited, Executive Ship Management Private Limited, Fleet Management Limited, Yan Danu Private Limited, Laurel Ship Management Private Limited, MSI Ship Management Private Limited, Pacific Carriers Limited, the China Navigation Company Private Limited, Tom A.S. Congratulations to our 11 awardees. For our second category, we celebrate individuals who have consistently and substantially contributed to safety at sea efforts and engaged the maritime industry. This year's award goes to Captain Hari Subramaniam, Regional Head of Business Relations at the Ship Owners Mutual Protection and Indemnity Association, Luxembourg.
This is indeed such an honor. Improving safety at sea is all about walking the talk. This journey cannot be a single person's crusade, and hence I would like to dedicate this award as a team effort. Firstly, to my late dad who had dedicated his life to this cause, my family, the Ship Owners Club, the Nautical Institute Singapore branch, and of course the MPA for their constant support, without which this award would not have been possible. Thank you, everyone.
We move on now to recognize organizations that have consistently and substantially demonstrated safety throughout their fleet and organization. And the winner for this year's award is DMC Logistics Private Limited.
I'm honored to receive this MPA Safety at Sea Award. I would like to thank the organizer, MPA, and the colleagues at DMC Logistics. We remain committed to contribute to maritime safety. Thank you.
Next, we have our open category, which recognizes innovations in technology, systems, training, or substantive contributions to safety of operations. We have 2 winners this year. Congratulations to Singapore Maritime Academy.
On behalf of the Singapore Maritime Academy at the Singapore Polytechnic, I would like to thank the Chairman, the members and the Secretariat of the National Maritime Safety at Sea Council and the selection panel for the award.
We would also like to thank the industry stakeholders and our colleagues at the Centre of Excellence in Maritime Safety at the Singapore Polytechnic in partnering with us in exploring new frontiers in maritime safety.
This year, we are also pleased to present the award in the open category to Williamson Ships Service.
It's an honor to receive this award on behalf of Williamson Ship Service. Our product development philosophy is about embedding safe by design principles for our mooring solutions. With snapback arrestor, line management plan, and smart ropes, we're driving the industry forward. Stay safe all. Thank you, organizers.
This year, the National Maritime Safety at Sea Council has also decided to present letters of commendation to recognize safety-related endeavors by both companies and individuals. We are pleased to congratulate the following recipients. Costco Shipping Singapore Private Limited, Eastern Pacific Shipping Private Limited, Pacific International Lines Private Limited, Swire Pacific Offshore Operations Private Limited, Thome Group, Horm AS, and last but not least, from PSA Marine, Mr. Li He-Tian, Mr. Muhammad Rizwan bin Muhammad Razak, and Mr. Muhammad Khairuddin bin Maswan. Congratulations to all our winners, and thank you for your outstanding contributions towards safety at sea. And that brings us to the end of this year's International Safety at Sea webinar series. Our keynote speakers and panelists have shared their views and provided insights on a range of topics over the 4 sessions. And I hope that we have left you with some food for thought on this year's theme of maritime safety in the new normal and new paradigms that should come with it. We would also like to get your views on today's session. We hope that you can take a few minutes to complete a feedback form that will pop up when you exit this webinar. And last but not least, you can take part in our quiz at the end of each session to win Amazon gift vouchers worth 50 Singapore dollars. To qualify, just scan the QR code or click on the link posted in the chat window. Answer all the questions correctly and you could be one of 3 lucky winners randomly drawn per session. Winners will be notified by email, and if you are not based in Singapore, you will receive an equivalent USD value for the Amazon gift voucher. Good luck! Ladies and gentlemen, it has been a great pleasure to be your host these 2 days, and I want to thank you again for joining us. We look forward to seeing everyone at next year's International Safety at Sea event. Goodbye, take care, and stay safe.